See, it's great to be back here, and gosh, for I think about 9 years, I used to occupy that seat over there. I used to bring my sister here, and a guy named Eddie that used to live right over here used to always be with us. Yeah, I think some of you remember that. And I can remember all the years, all the wonderful programs that were here, and John Eric used to be the MC, and oh gosh. I used to tell people, hey, forget about American Idol. Come on down here. You know. This is a lot better, you know, than anything they got, you know. But anyway, what I like to do today, I'm sort of on a mission, because I'd like to speak a little bit about my background and what I experienced in my life. And I don't think anybody ever spoke about the years following the war. You know, there's a lot of information about the internment, and there's a lot of information about the redress movement, but there's a gap in there in which no one knows anything about. So I'm sort of writing a sort of a memoir story. I don't know what you're going to, I don't even have a title for a damn thing, you know. So, but anyway, what I'm trying to do is describe the sort of years that I went through. I need someone to keep track of time for me. So. Oh, okay. So anyway, so one of the things I like to talk about is at that time we all wanted to be members of a club, all of us, boys and girls, men and women, whatever, because that was the only way we could get invited to a party. You know, I mean, if you were part of a club, you were out. You know, your social life was nil. But if you were part of a club, you were invited to house parties, you can go to dances, you can do all these things. And you had to look a certain way and drive a certain car, and I'm sort of like writing about some of that. And I said, first and foremost, your car had to be up to snuff for what was in for a car at the time. And it didn't have to be brand new. It was understood that young men of that age could only afford used vehicles, but whatever the ride, they had to have a certain look and flair about it. This was the era of the muscle car, and those flashy monsters ruled the streets of Los Angeles. The rear end had to be lowered, and all the chrome parts if left on polished to a blinding degree. All the cars had to have a certain degree of customizing. In other words, you couldn't just leave it alone. You had to take parts off. And you wanted that cleaner, smoother look. The hubcaps are usually the most expensive types that could be purchased from the Midnight Auto Supply. You ever heard of the Midnight Auto Supply? Damn. And the mufflers had to have a certain sound, not too loud, not too soft. And of course, you had to have 2 exhaust pipes that were made of the best chrome you could buy. The upholstery had to be covered in thick plastic, custom covers, so as not to look like fuzzy material that covered the cars of old people. Every engine had to have extra carburetors, if you could afford to have work done on your motor. And with gas at 29 cents a gallon, gas mileage was downright irrelevant. And it was common for young ladies of the time to describe their dates not by their names, but by the model of the car he was driving. So talk about being objectified by that, you know? Yeah. And then you had to look a certain way to go to the party. You had to have your hair cut by the barber before the dance. That was an absolute must. And you had to look clean shaven around the ears. And it had to show that a professional showed some time to work on you. And in the 50s, in the 60s, well, in the 50s, the ducktail was in. And the ducktail meant that you had your long hair, and it all came together in the back, and it looked like a duck's ass. That was it. And of course, you had to have a shower or a bath. And as far as clothing was concerned, a carefully pressed shirt or a very light jacket had to be paired with a perfectly altered and pressed pair of dark pants. Levi's or casual wears like we're wearing tonight is an absolute no-no. And as far as shoes were concerned, tennis shoes were out. You had to wear the finest pair of Florsheim's, Regals, or Stacy Adams that you could afford to put on your feet. And when you got to the dance, which was a public dance or party, the music that was in was not some of the stuff you were hearing today, of course, obviously, but most of the music would be considered slow dance music because not too many of the young guys had enough confidence in their dancing abilities to do what we used to call the jit, which was a short for a takeoff of the old jitterbugging of the older generation. And it was a very complicated dance. And whenever someone would show that they could fast dance well, the spinning and twirling couple quickly had a small audience around them. My cousin Donji was an excellent dancer, and when it came time to do the jit, there were few on the floor that could compete with him. Not every style followed a pattern. Some couples just held hands, the left hand of the guy reaching out to the right hand of the girl, and both would improvise their moves, so it was sort of like a free movement type of thing. And it was really a style that we got from what you call the ghetto. The music, the dance styles, and everything was heavily influenced by what was going on in the black community. We were listening to things like In the Still of the Night by the Five Satins, Earth Angels by the Penguins, Dedicated to the One I Love by the Shirelles, Sincerely by the Moonglows, and 16 Candles by the Crest. And these were some of the standard rhythm and blues that came out of the record shops on Central Avenue. And luckily for me, the level of slow dancing was right up my speed because I wasn't too good of a dancer. But anyway, I'm down to my last 3 minutes. The parties and dances were great, but they all kind of fell apart. And in a way, I'm giving out a little history lesson too as to what happened to the JA community and why these dances disappeared. And there's a lot of conflict took place. And actually what really happened was a civil war broke out, I mean, young bloods being what they are. And if you go today to certain parts, you got the Blood and the Crips. Well, the same things happened to us. Because I was getting blamed for everything, like all the fighting going on between the younger guys from the neighborhood and the West Side. But the reality was that I could only control things to a certain degree. And it got out of hand when a fight erupted in a downtown parking lot and an honor student, they called him an honor student, who happened to be with the West Side guys, was gunned down and killed. This is Pershing Square. I was accused of inciting the younger members of the club to do these things. But the feud between the West Side and the East Side was everything I never started and was bigger than anything I could control. Yeah, I hated those from the West Side, but who didn't with the phony, acquired black accent? I didn't like anyone from the Crenshaw area. They were all full of shit. All talking, they swaggered around like they ruled the world. As far as I'm concerned, they could kiss my ass, but that didn't mean I wanted them dead, maybe a little roughed up, but so what? The JAs coming from that part of town have some of the worst habits, such as cockiness and bullshit that rubbed everybody from the East Side the wrong way. You could tell I'm from the East Side. And by the East Side, I meant the blacks, Mexicans, and Asians that live in South Central, Boa Heights, East LA, Chinatown, J Flats, and the Valley. Well, it pissed me off, and I like nothing better than to put my foot up their butt, but that didn't mean I want anybody shot over the whole thing. My time is up. Thank you very much.